OpenAI has projected that 1/3 of the planet will be using ChatGPT by the start of the next decade. That is roughly triple its current 900 million weekly users. But where ChatGPT gets these new users matters because it could actually have an impact on where OpenAI's ambitious revenue targets end up playing out. Our OpenAI reporter Sri Muppidi wrote a great column on this topic and joins me now. Sri, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you.
Great to be here.
So start us off with the company's projections. You talked about they see 2.6 billion weekly active users in 2030. So 2.6 billion weekly active users. What kind of revenue does that translate to in terms of what they're expecting?
Totally. So the 2.6 billion weekly active users is in 2030. And in that year, OpenAI expected to generate roughly 200 billion in revenue, with about 46 billion of it coming from new products that monetize free users. And as we've reported before, a vast majority of ChatGPT's users are free users. And so this could be, for example, by generating revenue from advertising or e-commerce. And so that's why the total user base is so important, just because while 2.6 billion weekly active users is a large number, nearly third of the population, it still is a vast majority of it for users. And so OpenAI needs to figure out a way to actually monetize these users.
Okay. Now, before we get to the next topic, I think it's staggering that you pointed out here that basically 25% of that 200 billion in revenue is coming from a product line that effectively really hasn't been rolled out yet. It's really, I mean, we've talked about shopping and advertising. I mean, this is the big question, right? And what does it even look like? And here they're saying, it's going to end up being 25% of our business. Um, I want to talk also about the geography. So you made this point in the story in the column about how, depending on where a user is located, it has traditionally had an impact on how much revenue it brings in for large tech companies. Talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about OpenAI specifically.
Totally. So we looked at a number of other digital ad companies. This includes, for example, Meta and Pinterest and Snap. And what we find disproportionately is that users from the US and Canada drive a disproportionate amount of revenue despite the small percentage of total users. So if we zoom in, for example, on Pinterest, users from US and Canada generated nearly 75% of Pinterest's third quarter revenue in 2025, but they only accounted for less than a fifth of Pinterest's 600 million monthly active users. And so this shows up in a metric called average revenue per user. And so what we find,
ARPU, ARPU.
yes, exactly. So the ARPU for US and Canada users for Pinterest is $7.64 for that third quarter, while Europe was $1.31, and then the rest of the world was just 21 cents. And that really just shows up sort of how important monetizing while expanding OpenAI's business is really important. It just shows up that like the US and Canada in particular, when you look at other companies like Meta, Pinterest, is important to actually be able to monetize these users.
Okay, so now if they want to get to 200 billion in revenue, and we know that it's harder to make money from customers outside of North America, really, where are the users for ChatGPT? Where are they located currently?
Yeah, so the top 5 markets for OpenAI's weekly active users today are US, India, Brazil, Japan, and France.
Okay, so that, and so I mean, where I'm going with this is, are they well positioned to, make this revenue target? Do you think, or what are some of the challenges you see them facing?
I think the big challenge that they'll face is just given that India and Brazil are in the top 2 markets, they're gonna really help with that metric of driving weekly active users. But when you look at, for example, just like the 21 cents and Pinterest example where the rest of the world, India and Brazil won't necessarily have the ARPUs as like the US and Canada that they have. And so we see this already with how OpenAI has launched a ChatGPT Go subscription model where it costs roughly $5 as compared to a $20 or $200 plan for example, users that are not in those like Go areas. You see that the ARPU for the rest of the world is going to be less than, for example, the users in the US. And so I think that this poses a challenge for OpenAI just because they have to be really smart in how they actually monetize these users and see if they can do that in a way that still helps them get to their metrics and goals that they want in the long run.
Great. Well, Sri, I want to thank you for coming on. It was an insightful column. That is Sri Muppidi, our OpenAI and Anthropic reporter here at The Information.